Heavy smoke rose over Gaza as reports said Israeli forces launched a ground offensive to seize Gaza City. Axios, citing Israeli officials, reported the occupation military pushed in after weeks of intensive strikes. Israeli forces have been operating on the outskirts for weeks, edging towards the city center, where around 1 million Palestinians were sheltering last month. Palestinians in Gaza City say children were pulled from the rubble after Israel unleashed a massive overnight bombing campaign. Residents harrowing scenes as they searched through debris, saying children were recovered in pieces. The strikes came as Israeli troops advanced into the center of Gaza's largest urban hub. The military official confirmed the ground offensive, calling it a next stage of Israel's push to capture Gaza City, where hundreds of thousands of civilians remain trapped under heavy bombardment. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz says the army will not retreat until Hamas is defeated and the captives have returned. Katz said the military is striking Hamas infrastructure with an iron fist to secure conditions for the captives' release. He vowed Israel will push on until its mission in Gaza is complete. On the other hand, Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid says that the Gaza operation lacks political goals and endangers captives and soldiers. Lapid warned no country can fight a war for a year without clear objectives. He further said that the offensive risks both Israeli captives and troops on the ground. Hamas has warned that Israel's ground offensive in Gaza City endangers Palestinian civilians and the lives of Israeli soldiers held captive. In a statement on Telegram, Hamas accused Israel of carrying out a systemic campaign of destruction in Gaza City. The group said Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu bears full responsibility for the captives' safety and criticized President Donald Trump for what he called a double standard in supporting Israel despite the high civilian death toll. Hamas said Washington's backing makes the U.S. directly responsible for the escalations. Families of Israeli captives have protested in Jerusalem, urging Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to reach a ceasefire deal to bring them home. The demonstrations came as Axios reported Israel launched a ground offensive to seize Gaza City, the enclave's largest urban center. The move follows weeks of heavy bombardment and a siege that has left Gaza in humanitarian crisis, with widespread destruction, mass displacement, and severe shortages of food and water. Netanyahu has ordered the army to capture Gaza City, describing it as a Hamas stronghold. Israel's army radio says more than 350,000 Palestinians have fled Gaza City to the south. The occupation military expects the exodus to accelerate as Israeli forces advance into Gaza City. Israeli media report the Security Cabinet estimates the ground operation will end by year's end. A Palestinian foreign ministry says Israel's assault on Gaza City is putting hundreds of thousands of civilians at risk. The ministry accused Israel of deliberately targeting civilians and making Gaza unlivable. It urged urgent international action to stop what it called a major crime. Germany and Sweden have criticised Israel's advance on Gaza City, warning it breaches international law and worsens the humanitarian crisis. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul said incidents outlined in the recent UN report were very worrying and called Israel's offensive the wrong approach, adding Berlin has already restricted arms deliveries. He also ruled that recognizing a Palestinian state now, but reaffirmed support for a two-state solution. Swedish Foreign Minister Maria Malmar Stangard said any change of territory by force would violate international law and urged pressure on both Israel and Hamas to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza. A top UN official has warned of a preventable famine in Gaza and urged Israel to allow unimpeded aid delivery. UN Chief Tom Fletcher told the Security Council that hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are already at risk, particularly in Gaza City, where Israel has launched a new offensive. He said aid deliveries during a previous ceasefire showed famine can be stopped if access is granted. Israel says it is easing restrictions, but international agencies insist far more is needed. Local health officials say at least 16 Palestinians were killed in Israeli strikes on homes and the tent sheltering displaced families.
We need a ceasefire now. And all of this, of course, is against a backdrop where the rules of war are being corroded day by day. We've heard Israeli ministers talking openly about flattening Gaza and forcing people out permanently, bombing food aid, and so on. And I've said consistently, I don't think that we have to choose between condemning the starving.
The United Nations says Israeli authorities blocked multiple aid missions to Gaza City despite initial approvals. UN spokesperson Olga Chervako said convoys were stopped at Wadi Gaza Bridge on Sunday, preventing supplies from reaching civilians trapped in the north. She stressed the need for unimpeded, rapid and safe access to protect those unable or unwilling to flee. Israel's ground offensive to capture Gaza City has created a deepening humanitarian crisis with widespread destruction, mass displacement and severe shortages of food and water. A United Nations commission has concluded that Israel has committed genocide in Gaza, holding Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other top officials responsible. The commission's 72-page report cites mass killings and aid blockages, forced displacement, and even the destruction of a fertility clinic as evidence. Navi Pillai, head of the inquiry and a former ICC judge, said Israeli leaders had shown genocidal intent, making the state accountable. The Gaza war has since killed more than 64,000 people, with aid monitors warning parts of the enclave are already in famine.
Into Palestine yet, we will, because this is a permanent commission. And we named the 3 individuals that we felt were responsible. And we said, and the one is the Prime Minister, the other the President, and the third is the former Minister of Defense. And we said that since they acted as agents